Hi everyone, and welcome to day 12 of our 30-day Fit and Health Challenge. Today we're going to be going through a mobility series and we're going to be focusing on the hips. So just a reminder that whenever you guys feel soreness or you're really tight, it's better to keep moving, do some active recovery like we're going to do today, go for walks, do some light activity around the house, instead of just being sedentary or sitting, because that's just going to increase your amount of stiffness. So all you're going to need today for the workout is some kind of elevated surface, whether that's a chair or a bench, and then either a heavy band or a towel will work just fine. Okay, so we'll get going. We're going to start with a standing mobility series, and then we're going to go on the floor for the rest of it. Our very first exercise, you're just going to put your foot up on your elevated surface, and we're going to rock nice and slow. Here, 6 reps per leg. And any stretch that we do today, if it feels good, you guys can just increase the number of reps. Nice and slow, try to feel in here. The harder the surface, the easier this is. And we'll do one more here, kind of hold at the bottom. You might feel it in different spots. So for me, right now, my calves are really tight, so I can feel it in my calves. Normally, I feel it more in my hip flexors. Kind of depends on where you guys are tight and where you guys feel the stretch. So here, nice and slow, nice and easy, 6 reps. We want to think of engaging the core here. We don't want to let the ribs flare open, right? But it's not a super tight activation. It's just enough so that they're kind of awake there and that we can control our spine. And one more. Good. Next up, we're going to put one foot, the opposite foot back up on our elevated surface, but this time our heel is going to be there. We're going to roll the shoulders back, engage through the core here, and nice and slow, you're going to lean forwards, keeping a flat back. We're looking for a stretch in the hamstring. As soon as you guys roll your back, you won't feel that stretch. You won't get it quite in the same spot. So we really want to keep the spine flat. This is about as far as I go. And here we're just going to move the foot around a bit. Now come out of it. We're going to do that 3 times. Okay, make sure spine is nice and neutral. Fold forwards. As soon as you guys feel that stretch, you can stop right there. If you can, we'll move the foot a little bit. Good, then we'll come back out one more time. Almost feel like you're sticking your butt out, you're pushing your butt to the wall behind you. And if one of these positions feels like a better stretch, let's say with your foot out here, you can just hold it there as well. Okay? We'll do the same thing on the other side. Straighten out those legs before we start. Roll the shoulders, flatten the spine. If you feel one side is tighter than the other, that's completely normal. Most people do have one side that holds more tension. Roll that around a bit. It could be because of your walking mechanism. It could be related to something in the hips and the feet. Everything is connected, so it could be from a past injury, anything like that. Good, we'll come out of it. Nice flat spine, bend over. Should feel a good stretch in back here. And then we'll do one more. Perfect. Okay, so the next one we're going to do are adductor dips. So we're actually going to flip our direction here. So we're now in line with our elevated surface instead of facing it. I'm just going to come up to the side here so you can see my hips. My toes are pointed up to the ceiling. My toes on the floor are pointed straight ahead. And what I'm gonna do here is bend through my knees slightly and then push my hips back. So some people might feel it more if they kind of squat down. Some people might feel it more if they hinge backwards. I kind of like a bit of both. But this one you have a little bit of leeway, so whatever you guys feel the best stretch, you can go for that. Should be feeling it on the inside of the top leg. We're gonna go for 10 reps. Nice and slow. Hold it at the bottom for a second. If you guys wanna have a chair or have a wall you guys can hold on to, if stability is a bit of an issue, that's good. Go for one more, and then we'll switch sides. So again, on the floor, my toes are pointed forwards. Up on the bench, my toes are pointed up to the ceiling. Slight bend in my knee to start, and then just pushing my hips backwards. Try to keep the toes up to the ceiling as you're going down. You don't want to let them twist forward. That'll take away from our stretch. If this is too much for you guys with the foot up on a chair or anything, it doesn't have to be a high surface. You can even leave your foot on the floor here and then just push backwards. Okay, it can be a small step. Anything like that's gonna work. Do one more. Good. Okay, now our next one. This is our last one using our elevated surface. And again, the lower the surface, the easier the stretch is going to be. We've got two variations. One is just that we're going to put our foot here and then squeeze our butt forward, and we should squeeze our butt and push the hips forward. We should get a stretch in the hip flexor and maybe even through the quad a little bit. We just don't want to let our hips turn towards the foot that we've elevated. We want to make sure we keep the hips square to the surface in front of us. And then we're going to just push forward here. So this is a nice easy stretch. If you don't feel too much like that and you're comfortable, you can put one knee down on the ground, and then that leg that was straight is now in a 90-degree position. And now from here, squeezing our glutes, keeping the ribs down here so we're not flaring the ribs open and rounding through the back. And just holding this guy anywhere from 30 seconds to a minute and a half. A lot of people find this is a good stretch. If you wanted to try it on the floor, but the leg all the way up on the bench is too much, you can just slightly elevate your feet on a step or on a few books or something so it's not quite as high. Again, making sure we're squeezing through that glute. We want to try and push the hips forward. Good. Now to get out of that, we can either hold on to a surface, come put our hands on the ground. Just be careful as we step out of it. Okay, we'll switch legs. Again, we're either just elevating that back foot, same concept goes for squeezing the hip forward. And if you push your foot down into that surface, you'll get an even better stretch. Okay, if we're comfortable, you can bring it down to the ground. Pull the ribs down, squeeze the glute, push the hips forward. Okay, something you can do to make this stretch even harder, get into that hip flexor a bit more, is elevate the hand, reach up to the ceiling on the side you have your knee on the ground. All right, that'll make that hip flexor, that psoas muscle, even more elongated. Good. come out of that. So that's our standing sequence, guys. Next up, we're gonna get set up on the floor and we're gonna do a stretching sequence for the hips on our backs. All right, guys, so we'll get ready on our floor sequence. The first stretch we're gonna do here is our figure 4 stretch. So you're gonna pick that leg up. We're gonna put our ankle on our opposite knee. And now we can either just stay here. If you guys are already feeling a stretch on the outside of your leg, this is position 1. Okay, if you can add a little bit of extra stretch, you can lift up that back leg. And then if you can add a bit more, we can thread the hands through the knee and then pull on that lower leg. Okay, whichever one of those 3 works for you. You want to feel a stretch through the glute here, maybe a little bit of the side of the leg. And we're just going to hold this guy for about 30 seconds. Actively think about your breathing and about relaxing your muscles, and that's going to allow you to have a better stretch here.
Stop the spread. COVID-19 can be deadly. Everyone must act now.
Good. We'll let that go. Let that come back to the ground. You can help your leg by picking it up. And then here we'll switch to the other side. So we're either in this position right here. If you guys are just here, you can add a little bit of pressure on the knee here to add a bit of the stretch without having to pick up that bottom leg. Position number 2 here, or position number 3, pulling that thigh in towards your chest. As you guys are holding that stretch, if you guys are starting to feel less of the stretch, it's normal that your muscles are relaxing, so we can pull that leg in more. And we can increase our stretch as we go, as our muscles relax. Good, we'll let that leg go. We're gonna come back to the first side. And get that ankle over the knee. We're going to anchor our hands down to the ground, okay, just to add some stability here. And we're going to let our knee drop from one side to the other. Just go as far as you can. We'll do about 10 reps per side. Again, only go as far as you can. Don't force it. Stay nice and relaxed here. We're just trying to get some movement through the hips. Make this a little bit more dynamic. And if there's a spot that feels really good, you can also just hold it there for a little bit. Let it kind of relax into that spot and then pick it back up again. As we're doing this one, we do want to have the core turned on just a little. Okay, you don't want to use your back muscles to pull the legs back in towards the middle. You want to use your core. Perfect. Now we'll switch legs. And we'll do the same thing here. 10 reps per side. Again, if one side is tighter than the other, it's completely normal. Might be tighter for one exercise on one side and then tighter for a different exercise on the opposite side, depending what muscle group that we're targeting. Nice and slow. Taking nice deep breaths. Only go as far as you can. Perfect. Okay, so back to the middle now. We're going to do some windmills. So our feet are going to be about shoulder width apart. Okay, maybe if you're on a yoga mat, you can put your feet to the edges of the yoga mat. And then we're just going to drop the legs from one side to the other. Again, this is nice and easy. We're not forcing anything. If your knees can touch the ground, that's great. If they can't, that's great too. Keep the core engaged a little bit, pull through the core, and then lift the legs. And then if you want to slow it down here, you can take a bit of a pause at that bottom position. Let just the weight of your legs pull them down. Perfect. Okay, now our next one, we're going to let one leg, and we can readjust our feet if we need to. We're going to let one leg drop into the middle. With your other leg, you're going to come put your ankle on the outside of the knee this time. And we're just going to let the weight of our legs do the work here and add a bit of pressure. So we're just working on the internal rotation of the hips. It's not a movement that very many people use as much as they should or mobilize as much as they should because we're often in a flex position and we're sitting down. We don't do nice big circles with our legs. So this is just kind of helping us get into that internal rotation. It shouldn't hurt. Okay, keep breathing. And if it's too much, just come out of it a little bit. Don't put as much pressure with the top leg. Hold it here for another few seconds. Good, and then we'll come back up. We can use our hands to lift the legs if we need to. Reset the feet on the edges of the mat. And then we'll let that leg drop. The opposite ankle is going to come on the outside of the knee. And then we'll just let it relax here. You may have to come out of it and readjust your back if you're feeling like it's pulling through your hips too much. Okay. Keep the core slightly engaged to protect that back here. Ease out of the pressure if we need to. Nice deep breath. It should increase our stretch. All right, and we'll come out of it. Take that top leg off if we need to help out that other leg. And now is when we're going to grab our band or our towel. So I have a heavy band here that doesn't stretch all that much. If you have a towel, it'll work perfectly. What we're going to do is you're going to loop it on the bottom of your foot, and we're going to have one leg straighten up at the top. We're going to straighten out the bottom leg as much as we can. So if you can completely straighten it, that's fine. If you want to keep a slight bend in it, that's also perfectly okay. And holding onto your band or your towel, we're just going to pull that leg up a little bit, pull it to the side a little bit. We're just going to play around with this hamstring stretch. What we're trying to get is a stretch in the back of the leg. We don't need to lock out. I actually don't want you to lock out your legs. Keep a very slight bend in the knee because we want to protect the knee joint. And then here you guys just do whatever you need to. You guys can hold both of the sides and then of the towel and completely open out to one side. Or completely open it to the other side. And it might be at different heights here, that's fine. And if you get a position that's a really good stretch and you just want to hold it there, go for it. And let's say we're holding this, so if everybody finds a good spot and hold it for a little bit, after a couple seconds, try to straighten out your leg just a little bit. Not blocked out, but just straighten it a little bit more than it was. You'll really feel that in hamstrings. Good, and then we can ease out of it. Good, keep playing with it. Perfect, we'll bend through the knee. Take that band off. Flip it to the other side. And then we'll start with the same thing. So again, that other leg is either bent or straight. Okay, it's a little bit easier if it is bent. Now this top leg will straighten just a little, not completely. And now we'll start playing around with it here. Ease in and out of the stretch. This is definitely not one we want to overdo, especially if we're not used to stretching on our hamstrings this much. So go easy on yourself. It's a really good stretch to do on a daily routine or a couple times a week, especially if you've been running or walking a lot in the nice weather that is coming. Good. If we want here, we can hold on to both sides. Open up all the way. Keep pulling it up towards your face just a little. You can try it here on the other side. Good. Keep playing around with it. And everybody find a spot that's good. Pull it in towards your face just a little. Let's hold that. Keep breathing. And then from here, we're going to try and straighten out our leg just a little. It could honestly be 1/8 of an inch if you guys are going to feel a bit of a difference. Keep breathing. Good, bend out of it. Play around with it a little bit more, then we've got one final stretch, and that's it for today. Awesome. So we'll bend that knee. We'll get rid of our towel or band. And now our last stretch, we're going to stay here on our backs. We're going to straighten our legs. Okay. We're nice and relaxed. We're going to pull one knee up. Now you can hold the back of your leg here. You can hold the top of your knee. What we're going to do is we're going to squeeze it into our chest as far as you can. And then we're going to hold on the outside of our leg and we're going to pull it across the body for a good little twist. So this isn't technically focused on the hips, it's more of a spinal rotation. But we're already here and it feels really good. So we're just going to do it anyways. And again, lift that leg up as far as you can. Now we can also put our hand on the outside of the thigh and just give it a bit of a twist here. Whatever works for you guys. And help that leg back. hold that little squeeze here for 3 or 4 seconds before we go into the rotation. Take a nice big deep breath here at the bottom. Again, if you're not used to it, don't force it. Enjoy it. Nice little pull. Okay, outside of the knee and rotate. If you guys want to increase the stretch a little bit, you can look towards your hand, and that makes it a little bit more intense. We'll do one more per side, and then we'll call it. And on the outside of the knee, pull. Big inhale, big exhale. Good, help that leg back to the middle. We're gonna do our last side here. Pull that knee in. Now the harder we pull, we're actually doing what's called a compression stretch.
No Frills customers. Starting April 16, our flyers will be digital only. Please note that our low price commitment is still our #1 priority, and we are still providing great weekly promotions and offers. Find them in store on superstore.ca, nofrills.ca, and in the PC Optimum app.
Now the harder that we pull here, we're actually doing what's called a compression stretch for our hip flexors. Okay, and hand on the outside of the knee, rotate. Either just let your leg fall or add a bit of pressure to the knee, just don't force too much. Big inhale and exhale. Help that leg back up to the middle. And we'll stand back up here. So guys, that is it for day 12. I hope your hips feel good. Go for a little walk now, see kind of how loose they feel. It's a good little routine, especially if you're doing a lot of sitting. It's going to help you regain mobility through the hips. And if you're doing a lot of walking or a lot of running, it's going to help you loosen up those tight muscles because you've been using them so much. All right, I'll see you tomorrow for day 13. It's going to be a lower body series.